Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to our State Demography Office April webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the census business tools that are available online. So our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the jobs data that SDO provides and contrast that with the data that the Census Bureau provides. Talk about three tools: the economic census, the on-the-map commuting tool, and the Census Business Builder, and then talk a little bit about a new survey that is coming together, um, be published later this year. We always have to talk about geography, and this is going to be more important in this context than in pretty much any other context that we talk about. You should be familiar with this layout of hierarchic geographies along the spine going from census blocks up to the entire nation. And then note that some of our important geographies, places, municipalities, zip codes, school districts, are off of the spine because they often, include areas from multiple counties, or in the case of zip codes, multiple states. One of the things that always happens, and you should get used to doing, and I'm sure you are if you've used our data a lot, is that you begin by specifying your geography. Now, SDO provides jobs data, and we publish it on our website. This is data that comes from the quarterly Census of Employment and Wages. We use this data as part of our population forecast and estimate program, and what we publish is only available on the county level. The Census Bureau supports multiple tools, multiple data tools and surveys, and multiple geographies. And then this data is also supplemented by information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which helps to produce information about unemployment and labor force participation. So we have different data sources and different data available from different vendors. The information that we have is relatively limited, but by looking at the Census Bureau pages, you can find more information that you may need. So we're going to talk about three tools in particular here. The first one is the economic census. This is a 5-year census that's conducted of businesses in the United States. It provides information at the national level and then state and local levels, and it provides a benchmark for multiple tools, including the gross domestic product and the producer price index. We also have this information is laid out by the NAICS codes, the standard industry classification. This data is released every 5 years. The last and most current data is from 2022, and it's available at basically 4 geographies: nations, states, counties, and places. And we'll talk a little bit about how you get that information in a moment. The On the Map tool is a comprehensive commuting tool that reports where workers are employed and where they live. It combines data from multiple sources: unemployment and wage records, Office of Personnel management data, and also the QCEW. This data is the last release was the 2022 data, and this data set has probably the broadest um, set of geographies. There are 22 separate geographies, uh, you know, states, counties, places, and then all kinds of other things. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, there's the Census Business Builder. This is a tool that is supposed to provide information to assist business location decisions. It gives you access to data from the ACS, the economic census, and other data sources that will allow someone who is looking to build a business or locate a business in a given location to understand the economic conditions of that location. And we get information all the way down to the census tract here. So I want to begin by talking about the economic census. Most of the data that the State Demography Office uses is data about jobs. The economic census provides us data about firms. It, you know, gives you a whole range of different measures, from NAICS codes all the way to information about payroll, and that you can use to specify particular counties, information about particular counties, and you can also get some of the municipalities within different counties. Here's where you find this information. There are ways of getting this, as we'll see in a second. This data is available from data.census.gov, but we recommend that you begin your use of this data from this page rather than data.census.gov, and you'll see why in a moment. First of all, there is a visualization that shows industry data by geography. By default, it shows information about states and information about revenue. We can select counties, county data, and we can select information about the number of employees, the number of establishments by industry category here. So if we look at this information here, let's see if we can make this work. There, this is Rio Blanco County. You can see the number of establishments by category, by NAICS category. Likewise, this is information for Arapahoe County, and you can see various information about that. On this visualization, it's not possible to get to smaller levels, so we need to go to data.census.gov. Here, by clicking here, you can see different data sources. See that these are broken out by NAICS categories, and they give you the the date range. When you click on this first category, the first entry here, you'll get data for all of the NAICS categories. And you can see this is for the United States, and you can see some of the variables that are available: firms, establishments, sales, payroll, etc. And typically what you will do, as you do with every data.census.gov query, is that you will get the subject matter table that you want, and then you will customize it by selecting different geographies. Now, with respect to the economic survey, you get all of the geographies, but it doesn't necessarily mean that data is available for all of these geographies. In fact, data is only available at the county level and at the municipal level. So we'll begin by looking at Arapahoe County. And you see you have all this information for Arapahoe County by NAICS codes, and it's quite a long list. And then if you want to look at a particular municipality, you would look at the economic place geography. So for Colorado, and we're going to pay attention to Centennial today. There's Centennial. And then the table updates. Now, you won't be able to see data for Arapahoe County and Centennial because of the length of the data set. It will take a second here. So what I encourage folks to do is to download this data. We're going to download an Excel file. If you want all the metadata and everything else, you can download a zip file. But we get it, the the Excel file here, and what you'll see is that this data is stacked. So you see this first part is all of the NAICS categories for Arapahoe County, and you continue down and down to approximate to what line. We're going to get there. There. You see that the data for Centennial is pasted below the data for Arapahoe County. So to use this data, you're going to have to manipulate the Excel file that you get. People have different ideas about the best way that they want to manipulate data. With a data file like this, I often want to use a statistical program because I can do the manipulations as needed in an easier way than if I'm cutting and pasting rows. But that's something that, everybody has their own preference about. So please, make this work for you. So there's some additional information about the data release, census data releases here, and you can follow that link. By the way, all of these links are available to you in the census, SDO Census Data Tools Resources document, which is available on our website on the trainings page. So we're going to be spending a lot of time with On the Map because this is a very, very robust application. You can see it provides information about workers and commuters in 4 or 5 different displays. And this data is available, again, like I said, for states and counties and places, and then 19 other specialized geographies. So let's take a look at this. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, we're going to have to pause for a second here. There we go. There we go. Now, as always, with every census application, the place you begin is with a geography. And I want to just sort of highlight all of the geographies that are available from the On the Map application, from states through census tracts to unified school districts, tribal lands, airports, Amtrak stations, universities. Here we're going to start with Centennial, and we get a list of data areas that have the word Centennial in it. So we'll be looking at Centennial City. And then we'll get a map here of the city. And then the next step is to select the analysis. So there's a lot here. First of all, one thing that we want to make sure is that we have the proper year selected. This is the 2022 data. Then we select the jobs type. In this case, we're going to use all jobs. And then whether we'll be looking back to the home versus work area selection in a moment. The first thing I want to look at is just the area profile. So the area profile summarizes information for the selected geography by several variables. You can see here we've got information by age, we've got information by earnings, by NAICS sector, and by race, and then education, ethnicity, and sex. Additionally, you can see over here a lot of different data resources on the left-hand side, including a detailed report that you can then download. I'll show you this detailed report. It's basically the layout of the materials that are in this panel, but then you can download that and use that in your work. So we return to this. I want to talk about destination. Now, this is really kind of one of the most important pieces of this particular tool is that allows you to understand where people live and work relative to your selected geography. This is where this situation comes in here. What we have it set up is to identify the people who commute to Centennial, who work in Centennial but live outside of Centennial. So we will take a look at that. And what you see here is that many, the most common location where people live, people who work in Centennial, they live in Denver. Centennial itself is about 6,000 people, is composed to about 11,000 people. Now this table shows just the top 10 um, loca residence locations. If you wanted to see more, you can you can select all of them, and you'll see just a lot of different um, residence locations, including uh, out-of-state locations. Now, this does not suggest that there are 6 people in Provo who live in Provo, Utah, and commute to Centennial to work. It does mean, however, that these people's addresses are, their home addresses are in Provo, and their work address is a is a firm and an establishment in Centennial. Now, if you wanted to see the other part of this, you wanted to see how many people commute from Centennial to different places, you can change the home and work area to home. And then what you'll see here is where workers are employed. So this is the people who live in Centennial but work elsewhere. And again, you see that Denver is the largest location. You see again about 6,000 people who live and work in Centennial. And back again, you can expand this list as necessary. So again, the same sort of qualifications apply here. I don't think that there are 6 people who live in Centennial and commute every day to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, but there is this issue, or Seattle, but there is, this consideration about the relationship of someone's official work address and their residence address. So those are things to keep in mind as you're looking at this entire list. The last thing I want to talk about here is understanding a little bit about the total inflow and outflow information. This is the most common um, output that people receive from this tool. There we go. What it shows is the number of people who commute into Centennial, the number of people who commute from Centennial, and then the number of people who live and work in Centennial. And you can see this, this Venn diagram, and also you can get this information in a table here. And then as always, you can download that as a report. Okay. So there's one more thing that this allows you to do is to get a sense of where people move from, you know, how many miles they commute and what direction they often commute. The radar chart gives you a relative idea of the magnitude of people who move into a particular direction. So we will, you know, so you can take a look at this, and always again you can download your you can download your reports. Okay, let's go back. Now the area, next thing I'm going to talk about here is the Census Business Builder. This is a very, again, an equally robust application that is designed to provide info, excuse me, to provide information to help people make decisions about where to locate businesses. We have a lot of documentation here. There's a lot of materials that you can look at. And I noticed this morning that there will be a Census Bureau webinar tomorrow. So if you want to learn some more about this, please take a look at the Census Bureau site under training, and you'll be able to access this application, the presentation. So let's see how this works. There we go. So without not surprisingly, you have to start with geography, right? So we're going to look at Centennial again. Centennial City. Now, I'm not going to comment about how busy this interface is. So we're going to hide some of these things, and then we'll come back to this in a moment. But first of all, you see our map of Centennial here. Um, first thing we can do is select a particular variable. Now, not every variable is available at every geographic level here. For example, you can see that business sales and jobs and workforce information is not always available here. But you can select particular variables to take a look at. We'll begin by looking at total population. And you can look at this comparatively. You see that Centennial compared to Denver and Lakewood and different areas, you can look at population estimates by size, and then you can download a detailed report of for Centennial here, providing a lot of different information that you can use in your in planning for a business location decision. And there's a lot of information here about some information about, the workforce and other information that you may find useful. One of the things that you're able to do with this tool is specify particular variables. One that will be interesting is looking at consumer spending. I want to look at consumer spending for dining out, just as an example. So what you'll see here is that you can see that the estimated annual consumer expenditure for dining out for Centennial as a whole is about $6,300. That's about $120 a week, which, is for a family, that seems kind of reasonable, right? Now you can also specify additional geographies. If you want to scroll down to the zip code, you can look at individual zip codes and see the same information here. And then if you really want to look at census tracts, you can do that as well. You will not be able to get like a detailed view for these lower geographies, but or the report for these lower geographies, but you should be able to get some sense of, say, the variation, say, looking at what's going on in this tract here near the Cherry Creek Reservoir, as opposed to this tract here out in sort of the western portion of the city of Centennial. This tool again has got a lot of options, and you can look at multiple variables by adding a secondary variable. You can focus on particular economic industry categories as you wish. The industry categories here are available. We want to look at food services and say we want to understand where restaurants are. We can look at that. There's a lot of tools here that you can use. This can easily take up quite a bit of your time. So I, you know, have fun, And then of course you can always, for many of these geographies, you can get the detailed report and provide more information about that. So the last thing I want to talk about is a new tool that is coming together. You can see here a list of 8 separate business surveys that are all being consolidated under this annual integrated economic survey. There's a lot that we don't know about this yet, but it is coming out in the end of this year, and this will provide some additional information for you if you want to really understand information about capital expenditures or trade or manufacturing data. So I encourage you to take a look at this resource, and if that is what you need. So we're going to conclude here. This is what we did today. First of all, we talked about some of the census data tools that you can look through and walk through some of these. I want to encourage you all, before we're going to go to questions in a second, I want to encourage you all to complete the post-webinar survey. We use this information to help plan our future webinars. In fact, this webinar had its genesis in a response to one of the questions from our last webinar. So, please take a look at that. So I'm going to give you my contact information. As always, we're here to help facilitate your work, help you get data that you need, help you understand what's going on in Colorado. And, we're always available to help you out. And I'm going to go to the questions now and see what we got. We have one. So telecommuting. Okay, so there's a way to confirm that. Okay, this is a question. The question is there a way to confirm whether someone only telecommutes or whether they physically commute from, say, Centennial to Provo? Not really. Okay. We have, the on the map tool provides information about commuting flows, but that's really the only place that does. We have information generally about the number of, and percentage of residents of a community who work from home, and also the residents, information about the residents in a community who work outside of their community of residence. That information comes from the American Community Survey, and it's compiled on our State Demography Office ACS spreadsheets page, and you can find those under the work and commuting section. We do not, the only, as I said before, the only place that there is information about the flows is the on the map community, is the on the map tool, and they don't make this distinction about whether or not someone works, remotely. So, that unfortunately those are some of the limitations that we have with our data. Okay. Um, so want to thank you for hanging out with us over your lunch period. I hope this gives you some information that you can use and get some more information. And please, take a moment, tell us what you thought about this. Give us an idea about what information we can provide with you in the next webinar, which will probably be in May or June, probably June. Uh, and then, we're moving up forward to the State Demography Summit, where we'll have an opportunity to talk about all these things. And this is always held in the first week of November. And we'll be having more information about that. You can find that out by subscribing to our newsletter. Everybody subscribe to our newsletter, right? Yeah, good news. Okay, so there are any other questions? We will see you later. Thank you very much.